hello. All right, let me get back to where I was. So I wanted to point everyone towards this. We're going to talk about this evening, but I put a PDF in the discussion area called Character Profile Sheet. And it's time to start talking really in depth about character sheets. So as we're going over the critique, go ahead and grab that and keep it. Kia, grab and save. Character Profile Sheet. All right, where were we? Okay, let's go here. All right, so I will pop in grades for the Indigenous boards from last week, but I wanted to look at this one from today. So remember that what was being required of you was thumbnails for last week, and a bunch of you did more than you were supposed to, or technically putting in a lot more details than a thumbnail would require. But the final boards were due this week. So I know several of you, like Vivian's boards, were like almost there. And so we would just have to, she would just have to update them or finish them. So let me know if I missed somebody because you thought that you handed it in last week and you were done. All right, so here we are looking at Kalia's map. And I think that's, Kalia, I always think it's a good idea to throw your 180 in there. Just even though you might know where it is, but it's always a good thing to just remind yourself to put that 180 in there. All right, so. All right, we're looking at what technically looks like thumbnails. You've got your grid, background, foreground, midground elements. You don't have a title card yet. You've got your slug going, American Native is walking. Stops, and we're remembering for the story from last week. And there's a cut. All right, so we have this establishing shot here, this brand new panel 4, where we see the protagonist and the antagonists standing together. And then we see the interaction between the two of them. And then the chief comes over and stops them, pushes the antagonist away. And as he does that, the earth opens up and there's a fissure in the earth. And you were following my lead about making sure that it looked like a fissure by drawing those lines, and that's a good thing. I'm going to take issue with the fact that your storyboard panels here are become the wrong aspect ratio. I think that you really need to pay attention to that, because just because of composition, straight out of the gate, just always pay attention to the aspect ratio of your storyboard panel, because it just affects the composition. And I think that it would just be a really easy fix to trim the top and bottom off these panels, but it's always a good idea to pay attention to that. And so now I see this repeated. So now I'm worried that you use the same piece of paper and you literally just colored in the boxes, and you had that incorrect aspect ratio now on all 3 pages of this, and possibly a 4th one if it was a 4th. So don't get yourself into an error that gets compounded because you're repeating it copy by copy by copy. You know, I think we talked about this last week. I think you're in pretty good shape here. One thing that's kind of just catching my eye is that the I don't know, here we go. The storyboard panels are starting to look pretty good right in here. I think this is your 2nd page. You've got your hitting your focal points. And then on this row here, panels 13, 14, and 15, you can see that the aspect ratio gets a little taller. And then by the one down here, it's even taller still. But I think that what happens is that you've got this allusion to either foliage or a giant tree in the background, which I think is pretty good. But I think that what happens here is that you forgot this tree, forgot this bush. You have it in here on panel 2, and I think that it's good. I think that it's fine. The characters here are overlapping that. But then when they're not overlapping, the function of the storyboards becomes a little impaired because that composition is missing either the trees or the bushes or whatever those things were. And by the time you get to these panels and these panels, your composition becomes just a little weaker because that element's not there. So remember that if you are copying backgrounds over and over again, that it's important to just make sure you're copying as much of the original background as possible. All right, so just one more thing, and that is that it doesn't look like your camera moves around very much. I don't know if we talked about this last week, but when I'm looking at this, I see that you've got a couple of 4 different cameras there, but quite literally, just by the looks of that bush right there on the right, going forward, you only cut to a close-up in panel 26. So I think that what you really want to try to do is mix up your cameras. Tell the visual story. All right?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, my mic wasn't working properly.
I can hear you now.
Okay, good.
So did you catch my critique there?
Yes.
All right, and I think that I think that your story is being told, but I think you could just kind of work on the composition a little bit and your cameras a little bit. All right, can I see some hands for Kalia, please?
Thank you.
Thanks, Kalia. All right, Lauren. Okay. Map, good idea. Okay. Another map, okay. Sorry. All right, so this looks good. Inner voice. The first one this semester to use boards with an inner voice. You're trying to get on my good side. So you've got the changing of the seasons, winter to spring. Okay, and you're inside the teepee, inside, okay. 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 I'm looking, it's working okay. Nothing's catching my eye, which is good. So, okay, I think that this is working pretty well here. What I would recommend is that these are like a cross between a thumbnail and the full boards, and you can see that just by the level of detail that you're putting in there. And in fact, I think that because all of your boards have a decent level of detail in them, that what ends up happening is that they just look like they're small boards, where what you really want to try to do is separate those two crafts so that, we talked about this before, it's like a main element of storyboarding. Just throw gestures, get the whole board done in just 20 minutes. Just throw your lines of action and get your gestures down. Do it fast. And then when you do these boards, I think that you really want to use the 4-inch boards instead of the 2-inch boards, because it just affects your ability to draw detail. Like for instance, in panel 17 right here, either your pencil was getting soft, or this is an incredibly small drawing. But to me, it looks like your pencil was just getting soft. And it ends up becoming a stylistic thing. It's not the bad, but I think that you really want to pay attention to what you're doing. Gestures are 2-inch boards, final boards are 4-inch boards, and they have more detail in them. So I think that your cameras are working, your posing is working. I think that your posing could be better with lines of action when we said that last week. So these look pretty good. A note for yourself is just make that difference between what you're doing for thumbnails and final boards. Can I see some hands for Laura, please? Yay! An effective point here would be is that if you wanted to do an animatic, that these would be too small for an animatic. This one right here is bigger, but it might even be a little too small to produce an animatic. You very, very rarely make an animatic out of thumbnails. Thumbnails are just your tool to get the script to become visual, and it's a step between the visual and the final boards. Okay. Again, I think your boards are working. You're getting into an animatic, then you would see whether you need extra poses or not. Like for instance, in panel 19, I think that it's pretty good, but in panel 19, you may want to do something like have just the canoe and the water and the sun, and then have your character enter into the shot in the second panel. So the next thing would be thinking just about your actions. Okay, that was Laura. Alec, you spent an hour drawing the first coyote. This one, this red one?
Yeah, I can't draw. I really tried. I really tried.
So the idea would be is you know you want to use a regular coyote, right?
Right.
There's nothing Warner Brothers about your coyote design, right?
Not at this point.
Okay, so you're just using a regular coyote. So you do this, you go over here, you open up a new tab, and you write coyote.
That's what I did.
All right, and then you just change it to images.
Yep. And you get
And okay, just wait. So, and then you see if you can find a pose that matches kind of where you're going for. And that would be like maybe this guy right here.
that's exactly the one I have.
Okay, so what you do then is you look at this in your mind's eye, and you do the same thing that you do for drawing people, and you break it down into volumes. And so what I'm looking at is head, line of action, volume. And so I'm just going to tab over here and I'm going to draw right here. Now I'm just going to do this a couple of times just to study it. The other thing that I can do is just grab this and peel it to the desktop. Find out where it went. Hold on. Oh, I grabbed the web. Hold on a second. So I'm going to save the image. It's cancel. All right, so what I'm going to do is do a screen grab. I'm just going to open this puppy up. And it takes a second. And there it is. So I'm going to open this up with my viewer. And I'm just going to let it sit there. And I'm going to leave it sit out here so I can select it again. I'm going to go back to our classroom. And I'm going to click over here so I can see both of them, right?
Right.
All right, so now I can draw in Zoom. And with zoom, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this light blue color just for a traditional take on what you're drawing. So now I can't do anything except draw in zoom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the overall head to butt, right, and shoulder to ground plane. And I can see that if I drew a rectangle here, that I get a certain proportion of height to width. And I can include the tail over here. I can start blocking this out. I can say, oh, look, here's the body, right? So that gives me like an intermediate volume for this neck, which leaves me with a really nice bean shape for the body here. And then the head is going to be composed of a sphere and then a cone that's stuck onto the sphere. The line of action here, you can see that there's a nice bend here, and then it just continues right on through the tail. So I'll come over here and I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to reproduce that just for a second. And whenever I'm doing a drawing, I always draw the head first because that sets the proportion. As soon as you hit this sphere, this spherical shape right here, it sets the proportion for everything else. And then you can just say, oh, I'm going to draw that little cone for his snout. And then you're going to study this line of action. And so just get that down and up compound curve going. And then when you do that, follow that compound curve, because this is kind of a cone or a cylinder that's for his neck. You know, to us, it kind of looks like a square, but it's actually more conical shaped. And then, you know, draw out your proportions really quickly. You can look back and forth and go, those are my general proportions of getting this guy over here into your drawing. So then copy this bean shape, and you'll see bean shapes going on in characters all over nature. And then look at the proportion of the bean that I just drew to the bean that is part of the image. And it's getting close. So you connect them. And again, I'm doing this in baby blue just because that's a traditional way to do it. All right, then you think about anatomy. And if you go back over to your Google search, you can kind of try to figure out, well, hey, you know what? There's shoulder blades here. The legs go backwards and then forwards, and then the back legs go forwards, backwards, and then forwards. And so that little rhythm right there, forwards, backwards, forwards, is prevalent in cats and dogs and lots of different animals. So even with just the little sketches that I'm doing right now, you can tell that I'm kind of capturing that pose. Coyotes have a nice long tail, and you study it. It starts narrow, it gets wider, and then it gets narrow again. So it looks kind of like a feather. If you can see that overall shape right there, it does kind of look like a feather. And it belongs to the line of action. All right, coyotes have big ears. So you get that little triangular shape in there, and you get this one over there, and you're starting to get close. One of the rules of drawing legs and arms for humans or any other character is that they generally get narrower as they go out towards the feet or paws. And so, you know, I'm just going to draw the away one just really lightly right there. And again, so now I'm looking at what would be the quads and the hamstring. And then this is the his calf muscles, because this is all just ligaments. There's not a lot of muscle down here. So that's translating just what you see here into shapes and volume using your line of action, right? And so, and I've over talked it because I think that you want to do this in just 2 minutes, right? And so, and then the next thing you want to look at is the negative space. How close did you get in your observation just by going through and saying, oh, I got that pretty close because this negative space is pretty close. This negative space is pretty close. And then I didn't get that other foot right there, but this negative space is pretty close. The tail is pretty close. The rhythm of the upper lines are down up, down, up, and then the tail. You know what I mean by down? The curve is downwards. Okay.
Yeah.
So then you do that over again. So now you see if you can do it down here without looking. So you go head, line of action, get that cone in there, get the bean shape in there, realize that these are his shoulder blades. They go backwards, forwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. Put that cone on there, get the triangular bits for the ears and get his tail, which kind of looks like a feather, and then figure out where you want his paws. Now in this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself just an imaginary horizon with a vanishing point that's right here. And I'm going to draw a square or a rectangle that's in perspective for where his paws would land if he's just standing. Do you know what I mean? So have you ever done that before? So then,
I know,
This-
but it's very cool.
so this paw here is kind of belonging to it. It's up in the air a little bit. And I did get pretty close just with this. So then the idea is to go in and see if you can draw any other pose. So now he's going to be looking this way, head, line of action, the body, he's kind of sitting up a little bit now. I'm going to put that same kind of plane in here. Forwards, backwards, forwards. And now he's kind of looking more at the camera. And we can see both eyes. And we still get that little tail for the feather. Forwards, backwards, forwards again. So I'm just putting him in a different pose right there. And you study this. So this took me 30 seconds, right?
Yeah, you've done it 500 times.
No, I don't draw coyotes every day. I'm studying. What I've done 5,000 times is analyzing the volumes, the shapes that I can see. And someone says, oh, I've never drawn a horse. Well, it's the same thing. You just look for these shapes. You break it into simple drawable shapes. And so that's the method, if you will. It's the method of getting this. And then realizing that you're just drawing a coyote that's a real coyote. And when you start doing this, and this is a perfect thing to talk about today, it's now you say, maybe I want that head to be a little bigger than the neck and body. And so you kind of make the body a little, and you stop right there and you go, you know what? I'm going to make him bipedal. So you draw the head, you draw this, now you draw your line of action like this, and you make him bipedal. And all the things that you just studied, backwards, forwards, backwards, backwards, forwards, backwards, you get the little ears, you get his little tail back there, you get his eyes, and then you can start working on your own characterization of him. Because these shapes are similar, but what would it look like if he had a bigger head? And then you go back and now you can study the difference between cartoon or drawings of coyotes. You know, what did Chuck Jones' coyote look like? You know what I mean? So that's the process of finding the shapes and putting the shapes on the line of action, paying attention to your original proportions, and then just playing with it. Okay, got it? So do you want to grab a picture of that?
No, yes, actually I do. Hang
Okay.
on. I'm getting my hand. Because it's gonna help me get started. So I think that what I'm gonna do is, I'm not gonna redo this whole board. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna create and submit a character study with coyotes to make
Okay.
up.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that okay with you?
Okay,
Okay, good.
all right. So this is similar to what we looked at last week. Clouds
Yes.
are a little better. Yeah, clouds are better.
Okay. I did work on that also.
Okay. He demands rain. I like that. I want rain. Ah! Okay.
It seemed more dramatic.
All right. So we can see the actions developing here, and you are paying attention to this. So remember that what you're doing is trying to get storyboards first. So don't confuse the idea of storyboards and illustration.
No,
Because-
this is not illustration. This is just,
and I know you're just doing it to make sure that you know that there was perspective in there, and that you wanted the blue against the background because it's water versus soil versus clouds in the air. But what you've done here is you're creating kind of a illustration. And because you've got lots of lines in here, it's like a divergence from the idea of drawing thumbnails.
this is my storyboard, not my thumbnails.
No, I know that, but
Okay.
because you're getting almost like an illustrative kind of style in it, that you're making a divergence from the thumbnails to more illustration,
Okay,
as opposed to thumbnails into boards.
okay.
But your story's working.
So I won't do that again next time.
Well, I think that you can confuse your client, because when you're looking at
Yeah.
something like this, you're like, oh, is this the art direction that you're going for? And that
Now that I'm looking at it from here, I totally see what you mean.
I think that you just want to make sure that you're aware that the instant you start putting colors and texture into a board, that the client is going to pick up on it and go, oh, I like that style you're going with. And then you would go, oh, wait, I'm just still doing the boards. And it's so idealistically, your storyboards can all be just monochrome. They can all just be shades of gray, but your story's working. And you cut to a top view, a bird's eye view of the Columbia River. Okay, so this is working. So just the points about drawing and lines of action, which again, it's a hard thing to capture. Hands for Alex, please.
I'll fix it next time. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Chloe, I know you're hiding back there.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okie dokie.
All right.
Okay, so yeah, I think we saw that before.
Mhm.
I saw before your map.
Yeah, I didn't get around to I took notes on the character design notes that you gave me last week, but I didn't get a chance to update it.
All right, so just from our conversation, right?
Mhm.
All right, so just to let everyone know, what I was mentioning to Chloe was that what she's got here, and I think that you'll all get something out of this comment, hopefully, is that she's got a character whose head is this tall. And if I draw a vertical line down here and copy this head's tall, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and a little bit, 5 1/4. And when you're looking at any kind of character that you're drawing that is 5 1/4 heads tall, what ends up happening is that you're either looking at a kid who is maybe 8 or 9 years old. And then when I see the proportions of an adult face here, I get worried. And so I'll draw my little question mark over here, right? I'll go, uh-oh, what's going on here? Because are you trying to draw 8 heads tall, or are you trying to draw 5? I'm sorry, that was 8 years old. Are you trying to draw 5 heads tall, or the typical human is anywhere between 8 and 9 heads tall? Basketball players can be different, but some basketball players are the exact same proportions, they're just taller. And so my recommendation for Chloe was to go back in here and to work on maybe making cartoon eyes, rounding out the face a little bit more. just so that it looked more like a cartoon rather than a representation of a real human. You can see that just by giving it the cartoon take right there, it starts to look a little better. And so that would be the first thing that I would just mention, is that in character design, that's one thing that you can do. Okay, so, and then, oh. All right, so thumbnails, good, these are appropriate. I think I was mentioning to Chloe in my office hours that it's okay here that she's got the correct proportions of these. I'm just gonna jump ahead just to make sure that they're all looking okay, and they are. So when I come back here, one of my recommendations was to create a piece of paper that has these frames already drawn on it, and that you slide it under the piece of paper that you're drawing on, and you don't copy the actual frames of the story panel. You just draw. You just draw the perspective, you draw the setup, and then you go back and take a break, and then you look at it and go, you know what, this one needed to be a little bigger, or I paused here because I wanted a pan or something like that. Okay, so
Yeah, no changes to these ones except I labeled the panel numbers. But other than that, like the ones that I showed you on Friday are
okay,
identical.
right, okay. All right, and so there's cuts, different cameras, that's all good. You're close, you're far away, that's good. You know, and again, like in a shot like this, you might want to start out wide and then push in to see him walking up to the village. And these are new for me though. Are these new?
These are new. I know you were talking about the templates with the paper.
Yeah.
But I was getting overwhelmed by trying a bunch of new things, so I decided to just try drawing first with just drawing without using like the frame, and then I added the
Right.
frame on top, and then next
Right.
week I'm going to try the template idea.
Right. And that works too. All right, so this is starting to work pretty well here. And so this is exactly what I'm talking about just getting a different size in here. So she, oh no, she's thinking to herself, the mammoth has come, what do I do? And then you want to draw kind of a master shot for that scene from her point of view, and that's bigger. That's perfectly appropriate. I would love to see more of that.
Okay.
Okay, good. So she's shocked, she runs, and he's saved by the tiny archer child. Okay, so this is working pretty well.
Okay.
Technically, these are still in the thumbnail phase. And so you would just want to make one more pass to get the level of detail, but your staging is working pretty well. Cameras are working. And it looks like you've got just enough panels too.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Hands for Chloe, everybody.
Thank you, Billy.
Oh, on my clock, it was 7:07:07. I just looked at my Zoom and it said 7:07:07. All right, let's keep going here. Magnus,
Hello.
how are you?
Pretty good.
The skeleton. All right, so it looks like you're embellishing the boards that you had last week. Okay.
I tried to do the inverse effect for when it gets nighttime.
Yeah,
I think
right.
I hope that looks good.
What did you do? Did you do an inverse and take a screenshot and place it or something?
Oh, I was using Photoshop and did a clipping mask on the invert.
Yeah, or you could just hit Command I.
Hmm.
It inverts colors.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing. All right, so I'm not sure that what the cartoon was called. Was it called Chalk Zone? A couple of 15 years ago, a kids TV animated series called Chalk Zone. And
I heard of it.
so I think it had some kind of artistic direction like that. But here, I think that what you're looking for is just, you want to tell your audience that it's just nighttime.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and so I think this is working pretty well. And I wanted to see, you've got the, you didn't introduce your villain until the very end, the antagonist right here.
Yeah.
All right, so, and I think that that's fine. I forget the myth.
Oh yeah, it's the skeleton. It's not the entire story because
Right,
it's pretty
that's right.
long, but
All right. Hey, I have blankets. Okay, so I think this is working pretty good just as a production board. Yeah, and I can tell that you put just enough work in it. You've got the line work, Photoshop, invert. Photoshop, line work, invert. And so I think the presentation is pretty good here. And I think that the other thing about this is that you've given just enough of a hint that it's supposed to be dark and inside without kind of revealing what you would give away for a final art direction. It's still just rough enough that you can see what's going on. And you put a little color in there just so we know. So that's fine. So this is working pretty good here, Magnus.
oh good.
Hands for Magnus. It's working pretty good.
Awesome.
Oh, and look at that file name. You're trying to get on my good side. It's not going to work, Magnus. It's not going to work. Okay, yeah, that looks good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Also, I just have a question about time management for storyboards in general.
Yes.
I think I spent around like 10 hours total on this.
Okay. So that's not the craziest thing I've ever heard. I think that the idea would be is that you've got 30 panels
Mhm.
and you probably just put a little bit too much detail in there. Whatever. I think the idea is for you to just get the same kind of finalized look and feel of what you're going for faster. And the only way you're going to do that is by doing another board and another board after that. So 8 or 10 hours is not the craziest thing I've ever heard, but I promise you, the more you draw boards, the quicker you'll get at it.
Okay.
I promise you.
Also,
I'm always amazed. It's like, everybody just do thumbnails and I'll show you. Look, it's fast to draw thumbnails. And you're all like, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my God, Billy. God, that teacher's a maniac. But it gets faster.
okay.
The more boards you
Also-
do, the faster it'll get.
Also, it's kind of wrestling with the layers because I kept trying to find what is this on.
Yeah, okay. So on top of that, don't wrangle yourself into some technical problems. Or technically what you would be is overproducing it.
Mm,
Just what you're trying to do is you're trying to get used to the idea of seeing printed words in your script. And as you're reading it, you're trying to visualize what's going on. And like I said, the people who taught me how to draw storyboards were so good at it that they didn't even use the maps. And then when I said, I can't do what he was doing, I've got to draw a map. I did that for myself because I didn't understand where things were in space. And so they're like, yeah, well, that's okay. You're just starting out. Drawing from your map for me always helps because then you kind of know what your camera's looking at.
yeah.
All right, did we
Yeah,
give
for
you
sure.
hands for Magnus? Hey! Riley.
Yes,
How are you?
great.
All right. Ooh, another coyote. It's the Coyote Central here. All right, so Alex, give him points on how to draw a coyote. All right. Okay, so remember that the idea of just getting it from scripts to thumbnails was due last week. So this should be more a full board size, which I think these are, but I'm expecting more than just a single stroke line from your characters, from the details on your board. It looks like you might have redone this because I think that you had an issue with your perspective last week, right?
Yes.
If I remember correctly. So I think that you've got some of that perspective fixed. What I would like to yell at you about in the most professional animated way is that, see this line right here?
Yeah.
So in terms of the laws of perspective, and remember that the laws of perspective were written by the Italians in the Renaissance, then that means your single vanishing point would be right here. And then, you know, you could kind of forgive yourself about this one and that one and any of these, but technically most of your lines are leading towards this as your vanishing point, which means that this would be your horizon. And so going from that, then you would have this technically what's called a 1-point vertical. Whenever your vanishing point is off the screen like this, it's called a 1-point vertical. You could do the same thing downward. So if your coyote is like right here, right? That's your coyote. And
Yes.
again, he's gonna always look more like a coyote if you give him longer legs. That means that your camera is pointed down at him, because the horizon is up. And I don't think you intended that because I see your horizon here. So what I would challenge you to be careful with is just your grid. So, and like I said, the vanishing point doesn't always have to be right in the middle of the screen. The vanishing point can be off to one side. It makes it more interesting. So just get used to the idea of drawing your grid out from the single vanishing point. And remember that these lines are closer together towards the horizon, and that technically each one of these is representing a square. And when I do this, just for that shot, your composition automatically looks a little better. I think your character design needs work here, and I think that I see the character in the foreground. And so remember last week that I told you I'd like to see the midground and the background layers. So for these panels here, you're missing those. All right, and then, so he's sweating, the rains come. And so did he summon the rain?
No, it's just some coincidence.
Okay.
Like say, I want some rain, rain comes.
All right, remember, so this is supposed to be mythology. So what were you looking at in terms of native indigenous mythology?
It says here like the coyote and the Columbus, like but I thought you said like how do I say this? But it's, how do I say it? You say like the coyote, like it's like the story, like the coyote, the clouds, and stuff like that. Did I do something like not something accurate, or
So
like
you're supposed to find a story and then do a storyboard for that mythology. So to hear what I'm gathering is that that coyote sweating is actually what causes the rain.
actually no, actually it's from the sun that got him tired, and then the rain like covers the sun, and then he like cools down.
Well,
And
I can see that, but remember that what you're trying to do is draw a native story that was not your own. So it could be that you were just inventing your own story.
I was I was just trying to follow the story, but
Again, so that I'm asking you what that story was. What was the mythology? That the coyote actually caused the rain? Like, for instance, in Alex's story, the rain causes, or the coyote causes the rain, which is the beginning of the Columbia River. So, and so I'm missing that connection between what you're drawing here and the mythology behind it.
oh, okay.
I think you just wanted to follow your story just a little more closely and work on your directions. When I'm looking for background, foreground, and midground elements on top of a perspective grid, I think that you should just do that for everyone. And so, and work on your character design too.
Okay.
All right, Riley, everybody put your fans together for Riley. Randy. I know you're lurking back there, Randy.
Yeah. Oh,
Right here.
All right, and we saw this last week, right? And you were just doing part of this?
Yeah.
Because I remember being scared last week and now I'm scared again.
Well, that's the original story.
Well, I know, but you're only doing part of it, right?
Yeah. I added all the stuff that you recommended me to do.
Okay. The map. Okay. All right, looks like you got to some of the things I recommended. That's good. So I think that your response is pretty good here, just for what you have. But remember when I was talking about the duration of your story, or when we were looking at shot length, that you were shooting for somewhere around 25 to 30 story panels. So you're a little short here. And the story panels still look like they're thumbnails. So you're still making that translation from editing the script down into the visual, which I think is working. I think it's a little rough, but that's okay. I think that now you would want to go back in and now draw your story panels out. For instance, in panel 1, 5 seconds is enough time that these people could be doing something. And so you would want to draw what they're doing. You know, are they getting ready for bed or whatever they're doing? Are they cooking dinner? Show that action so that when the crow comes in, it's a cut. It's more of a departure. 7 seconds is a really long time. So if I were to take this into an animatic and follow your slug, you know, I'm going to add this up really close. This looks like it's coming in almost at a minute, you know, and so if I've got 14 panels in a minute, and actually it's even longer than a minute, I can just see by looking at it that this is almost like a minute and 10 seconds. You definitely need more panels to show the action. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Hands for Randy, please. Put your wet fat flippers together for Randy, please. Actually, I think Randy is Darth Vader today. All right, Paula. All right, so this is repeat from last week, right, Paula? Okay, so this is interesting. It's good. 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Boards, okay. Okay. The fire says, feed me, okay. Okay. I would be careful with this panel. I think everything is pretty consistent here. I think you're doing a pretty good job of translating the script into a jump between thumbnails and final boards. Shot 5, shot 6, shot 7. I think it's interesting that the bears are thinking, oh, the fire is too bright, so they're shading their eyes. This next panel here, panel 23, it looks like the bears are all mooning the fire.
Mooney?
You know what I mean by that?
No,
You know what it means to moon somebody?
no.
Chloe, tell her what it means to moon somebody.
Are you talking about like sticking your butt at someone, Billy?
You show someone your butt.
Oh my gosh.
So if you look at it, the bears are like, oh my God, he's either crying or it is bright. And so they turn around and show their butt to the fire. It might have been better for you if you wanted to describe the action of the bears running away.
Mhm.
Is to give your, take your environment, draw your horizon. Your fire is here, right? Your human is here. And I'm forcing it off the left focal points because you realize that you want to draw these bears running. And so go online and figure out what running bears look like, right? And so I'm looking at my line of action and the bears and their paws are out, right? See this?
Mhm.
And so then you've got a whole bunch of bears. So then figure out what the running bears look like when they're running. And I'm trying not to draw the same kind of pose here. You know, this bear's got their legs up in the air. And you know, off to the side, then you can definitely study what a running bear looks like. They're going to be quadrupedal, but their arms, the front arms can be off the ground a little bit. You know, and one of them could even be looking behind and he's like, what the heck's going on? So instead of this, I would recommend more of a side view. And then when you got this laid out, then you can put your trees in there so that they're not interfering with the composition of your set. See what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think it would just look better from the side view
Okay.
because that looks like something obscene right there, Paula. Your bears are turning around to poop on the fire. And now fire belongs to man. All right, so that's working. Yeah, the only weird thing is that your butthole is on the bears.
Okay.
All right, it's working pretty good. Okay. Can I see some hands for Paula, please? Yay! Stop mooning the fire, Paula. All right, Tristan.
Yep.
It's still reading. Let me refresh my screen.
The heck?
Did you give me a blank PDF?
No.
Tristan, how dare you, you evil ratbag.
Billy,
What?
did you get my assignment for the native?
I didn't hear all your words. Tristan!
I don't know what happened.
Tristan!
Hold on a sec. me-
Tristan! Well, let me see what happens if I download it. I'm not seeing anything. And the PDF that I just downloaded looks like that.
What the heck?
It's beautiful. It's very consistent white.
Hold on a second. I'm gonna try to fix it.
All right, Philip,
Yes. Okay, good.
all right.
Put my hand down.
Okay, so your story is good. Now you're starting to work out your thumbs. You've got your direct screen direction under there. All right, so you're making the jump from the script to your very first thumbnails. And you're using your drawing tools to draw your thumbnails, I understand.
Yeah.
But I think that now you want to do another version of your thumbnails where your lines of action are more expressive.
Okay.
Because, are you listening?
Yes.
I think that it's inconceivable that you've got 3 characters and they're all in the same exact pose. So that you've taken one and copy and pasted it a couple of times.
Yes, I did.
Like, you know, and everyone can see that. And you've actually got that same pose copied here and here and here and here. It's like, so in your story then between panel 2, panel 3, panel 4, 5, and 5, the second panel 5, your characters are all in the same pose. And because of that, they're not moving around. So you just
So
have
it
to,
has to all be different.
yeah,
on the
that's the whole
back.
point of drawing the storyboard.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't- if you were to do this, then your characters would not be moving around at all. They wouldn't be animated. They wouldn't be animated, or they wouldn't be live action. So remember, the point is to describe what that action is.
Good.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Philip. Can I see some hands for Philip, please? Yay! All right, Randy, we're coming back.
Thank you,
All right,
Billy.
Kristen, we're coming back. Tristan. All right, let me know what's going on back there, Tristan. So what I would like to do is show you Paula's movie that she sent me. And so I haven't seen this yet, so I'll be just as surprised as all of you. This is 23 seconds long. Are you ready? Is everyone
Yeah.
watching?
Yep.
Lori, are you watching? Sit around, pay attention, put your feet on the floor, face the screen, pay attention. Here we go. And they move the fire. The fire belongs to men. Okay, so Chloe, I can see you in the monitor right there. What's the first thing I'm going to say?
I'm not sure.
What's
Sorry,
your first
Billy.
impression?
I think it's moving a little fast,
Yep.
maybe.
Exactly. Just stop right there. Paula,
Yeah.
it's just too fast.
Okay. Yeah, I thought
Too
it was
fast.
like 30 seconds.
Well, I know, but you as the story artist have to say, you know what? I like the story, but the way I did it, I think that I need more time. And so with just the same number of story panels, and I just hate this because QuickTime used to be, I used to have QuickTime Pro. And now I have nothing. I can't do this like I want. I wonder if this is QuickTime X. This is X 10.5. So the way to do this would be is to just kind of use my space bar to play and stop. I'm on the fire. All right, so what I did I just tried to emulate what it would look like if you were trying to get it towards more a realistic time. And it was probably 40 seconds. So I probably doubled the amount of time. But yeah, you've definitely got the right idea. Definitely have the right idea. Can I see some hands for Paula, please?
I am in the process of re-uploading it still. For some reason, the first
Oh,
version got
sure
corrupted or
you
something.
are.
For some reason, the first version got corrupted or something. I don't know what happened.
Hey, Billy.
Yes.
Can we go back to look at mine? I submitted it like
Okay.
a few minutes after class started. It might need to reload or something. Unless it didn't work.
You're really loaded. What?
You might need to reload it.
I did. I did.
Oh,
So remember, I'm in Indigenous Peoples Story Final. Did you put it in the right folder?
let me check. I clicked on the one that was due today, but I'll go see.
See it, Indigenous Peoples Story _ final. And I don't see anything there.
Oh, okay. I submitted it to the wrong one because that one was
Submit it to this one.
okay.
Just re-put it in there.
Okay. Okay, it's submitting right now.
Okay. Tell me when it's done loading. Tell me when you're loaded. Are you drinking beer during class, Carmen?
No.
Why?
That's
Why not?
illegal. I can't do that.
I also submit my full boards under the late missing redo tab.
Okay, I'll look at it. Thank you, Philip.
Okay, I submitted them.
Okay, it's in.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this is good. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, good, excellent. Can I go backwards just for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that this is fine. The first time we realize that it's night is here. And so I think that it's fine that you're putting in this tone. And we were going to talk about tone for like the final board. But I think that if you are telling a story that's at night, you may want to go backwards and just hint. It's kind of hard to hint in panels 2 and 3. That it's fine. You can tell me to shut up. That's fine. All right, so good. So the wind is coming in. He turns. Okay. So could you remind me just, this is the spirit, right?
Yeah. It's like the breeze and then the spirit shows up later.
So I think that what is really calling for in panel 8 is a slow truck on your lead character, just so that we're more engaged with him. That remember that when you're in a mid shot like this, or technically if you can see his feet are curled and you got the whole canoe in here, this is technically a wide shot. It's a step between a wide and a mid shot. But he's worried about the spirit, or he's intrigued about the spirit. You know, maybe not worried. He's just like, oh, you know, I'm at a point of revelation with the spirit. And so I think that you really need a new panel 9 and 10 describing how he feels about that spirit.
Okay.
And then you can disengage by having him paddle away. Remember that a character moving away from camera is the technical definition of disengaging. And then he's surprised again, the spirit comes back. And so you do it here. This is correct that you can see that you're pushing in, you're trucking in here, and then you cut to panel 12, where he's very surprised by the spirit. So you could argue that if you did that here, it would make this repetitive, but you could cheat it a little bit by just doing a slow zoom, a slow truck over 5 seconds instead of 2, just
okay.
so that your audience feels that they're getting closer, that they're becoming more intimate with your character, rather than just leaving him in a wide shot.
Mhm.
All right, and so this is good. I'm just running here. So yeah, so this is nice that he is interacting with the spirit. I would just be careful of the arm that you've drawn here
Yeah.
for the wind spirit, because it looks like a flipper and that she would be a mermaid or a seal or something, because that is not what it is here.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what you were thinking. I know that if you were thinking of actually drawing it in the full proportion, that it would be in this, the way of his hand. But I think that you can very carefully fix that by doing it like this. You draw the hand coming down. What's going on with my zoom? I don't know why it did that. And then you draw the hand behind his hand, and then almost in the same place, you draw her hand here. And so that there's nothing like tangential about the drawings. Now, does this hand grow?
I was thinking about it as like extending like the wind,
Yeah.
But that was because I couldn't figure out a way to place it that didn't block the guy's arm. But the way you drew it would work better probably.
Yeah, well, the reason that I asked is because she's just a wisp.
Yeah.
Right here, and in panel 12, there is no form. It's just his imagination giving form to the wind, if you will. So you could do the thing where it grows, but if you do want it to grow, I would suggest having it grow into that form this way, because this looks a little funny.
Yeah.
And in the nonverbal, the nonverbal gesture looks like she's about to slap him. What you doing on my river? Get off my river. So you just want to be clear about that idea. And then now that you've got that idea, I know that you want to erase that hand immediately and make a maybe 13A, 13B, 13C, where her hand and her other hand are growing.
Okay.
They just grow. And maybe in panel 13A, B, C, her whole form grows and becomes more cohesive as a human spirit. Okay. All right, and then it moves away, and then he rubs his eyes. That's great. These drawings are great. Okay, and then he goes home, and he realizes that was his wife. And we talked about those little details last week. So you added this. This is all new, right?
Yeah, I tried to do the close up when he realized.
So I think this is exactly what you need here. You can truck in on his face in panel 21, and then this is technically not a cut because it's just a continuation. So it's still shot 7. That is absolutely correct. And this expression is great, and this expression is great. He rushes to her. So you do a side cut. This one might be a little disengaged right here. I think that as long as we're intimate with him in a close-up, that I think it's incorrect of you to jump this far out. So for here, I would just do a real simple edit, and that would be just.
I was just trying to reuse that panel because I drew it last time.
Yeah, well, don't do that. Don't cheat. Don't cheat yourself. But you might want to start here And I know what you're thinking. I knew what you were thinking. You want to start here because you want to know that the camera was over here. So
Yeah.
what this camera sees is actually this camera is over here, right? There's the lens of it. It's on a tripod, right?
Yeah.
And so if you just cut to this, you would, I think it would be fine because of this doorway. And so, and his motion. So you would do a position A and a position B, and I think that this would be fine. The fires here. So, and just cut to this, and you could even, if you start out here, do a slow truck in to this kind of position here. And then you can show his like total disbelief of what's happened.
Yeah.
Okay. And so once again, I think that you just want to be really careful about the degree of intimacy with your character. I think this is fine. These are technically mid shots. That's fine, because your camera doesn't have to move in order to show the spirit. So that's good. That's good. That's what you want. That's what you need. I think I might linger. You say 1.5 seconds here,
Yeah.
but for panel 25, it's like, let your audience weep. This could be 6 seconds. This is the shot that is your money shot. This is when he realizes in his own head that he was just visited by the spirit on the river. And it all comes back to him, and your audience can go back and forth in the story too. So yeah, I strongly disagree with 1.5 seconds here. I would make this 6 and then add 2 to it for 8, and then 1 for 9. And then this might be a little fast right here. I think if you did an animatic, this is only 12 frames. This is way too fast. And so you could linger. All of this right here could be 15 seconds total, just all 4 of these panels. All right, and then she goes away. So I think that this is fine. It's interesting that in this shot, her body is gone. Did you intend that?
Yeah, she's supposed to kind of merge with the wind and drift out.
Okay. So I think that what you owe it to your audience then is to, and this is way too fast too, 1/2 second and 1.5. Just let this linger. Let it be as long as you could possibly stand it, because this is the moment of your film when you're really, really, really telling what happened, everything, especially in panel 29, now that her body is gone. And what you would want to do is at least have him turn around to realize that her body is gone. She has become, the whole part of her has become the spirit. And even though he is very upset, and it's a big tragedy, that now there's this chance that he could see her again. Right? That she's out there, she's doing her thing, but because he's seen her twice already, that he could see her again, and that gives him power. And in an emotional moment, he could turn and see the empty space and stand and smile. That would be something like this. Oh, all of a sudden the audience realizes that he's realized that he might be able to see her again. All right, so this is great. Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that I would make those adjustments before you archive this project. You don't have to make the adjustments here to the slug, but you can if you want, because you just draw it. But at least for the things that I gave you about the screen direction here and here in this ending shot, and then get it ready for your website and your portfolio.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so let me look here. Tristan, I didn't hear you in the background.
Yes, I re-uploaded it. Just refresh. It should work this time.
Okay, there we go. All right, so remember that in the board here, you want to give your audience, which is me and your classmates, just an indication what your screen direction is. You know, and especially if you're not going to have dialogue on the screen, tell us what's happening just in a few words.
Okay.
Because they could be playing, or this monster could be chasing this guy. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
All right, so it's a wampus. And so did he know? I'm going, did he know that he's being followed right here in this panel?
No,
Okay.
he did not.
So he only realizes he's being followed or chased here. So
That's
that's
correct.
from the wampus's POV. And then the wampus is actually chasing him.
That's correct.
Okay. So is this supposed to be like in the essence of surrealism, where there's like a door out in space, not connected to a room or anything like that?
No, it's supposed to be like a single room.
Is this the outside of the room or the inside of the room?
That's the outside because the door is
So
closed at
this
the
would be
moment.
like a house or a building or something.
Yes.
So when I ask you that question, because when we see this, it's incomplete, and because it's incomplete, it could be verging on surrealism or expressionism, where Salvador Dali paints clocks that are melting or doors that are just hanging out in space. So I would suggest building the environment here so that we know he's going into a house or a building or something, and not into a dream door. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean now.
So it's not a dream door. All right, so now is he in the window?
No, that's his friend.
His friend? So you need an establishing shot. Because right now there were just two characters. There was a guy and the monster. Right? And so is this a third character?
Yes, it's according to the story, he goes into a friend's house.
So yeah, you need to establish that, because the audience would just think that this is him. So he needs to open the door and look in, or pound on the door, and this guy would open the door. Hey, what's up, Tristan? What's going on? Oh my God, there's a monster, right?
All right.
Let me get you in the house. And then the monster gets frustrated and just walks away. And the camera zooms into the monster, who is sad. And what is this in panel 25?
That's a necklace.
And so do you think that the monster was supposed to be giving the character a necklace?
It's more so she regrets having been turned into a wampus, and that she can't go back to civilization.
So this was maybe someone that he knew, that your character used to know this person?
Yeah.
All right, so this is not your story. You're just following the legend, the myth. And in the myth, the wampus did not leave the necklace like on the windowsill or the door or anything like that.
No.
They just went away with it. Okay. All right. So I appreciate the perspective, and I appreciate the attempt at getting those trees in there. You're not going to get yelled at for your trees. But I think that I do want you making another attempt to dress your shots. Give
Okay.
yourself, take this opacity down on your grid and dress it. So where is your horizon? What is in the deep background? What is in the midground? And your character then is in the foreground. And then try to define your character a little bit more than just the outline of the character. It's going to be better for you to go back and look at character design by drawing a head, line of action, volume, rhythm, that all of those steps that go into the character. All right, so
Alright.
this is looking pretty good. Your line work is a little rough. You know, I would try to get more of a faster line. And I know that maybe the first time I've said that, but I think that you're trying to draw maybe just a little too slowly. Speed up your line work, and you'll see that the quality of your line will change.
Okay.
Okay, can I see some hands for Tristan, please? Yay! Okay, what I would like to do, is there anyone else that submitted? Here. All right, so what I would like to do, just a quick note for anyone that is needing to get caught up. I'm going to take a look at the deadline for this one. Give me 2 seconds. I have it due open until Halloween. I said that it was due on the 25th.
That was
But let me
yesterday.
just make sure that you can, because there's some of you who need to still post. So it is due. I'm gonna just change the due date to Sunday night.
Oh, that's for the indigenous
The
people
one we just
storyboard.
the one we just looked at, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's people who have not submitted yet. All right, so I'm looking at my sheet, and I see that there are, oops, wrong sheet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. There are 7 weeks left. So that gives us time to do 2 boards. And so 3 weeks from tonight, your next board will be due, right? 3 weeks from tonight. And that would be on, let me make sure it's not a holiday. That would be on the 17th, November 17th. Okay, that's the week before Thanksgiving. Okay, and
Okay.
then a final board leading up to the last day of class. Everyone okay?
Yep.
So 2 more boards. So, and I know what you're thinking, a needle pulling thread.
What?
I said so. A needle pulling thread.
I don't get that.
Yeah, neither do I. Ray. A drop of golden sun, Philip. Oh my God.
Oh. My bad.
We have class on November 24th. I think we do. Carmen is asking if we, or Vivian is asking if we have on the 24th. I think we do. The day before Thanksgiving, I think we do meet that night. I'll keep it short that night, right? I'll let you all, I'll let you out early. According to my schedule, if we have 1, 2, 3, what that would be, that 24th would be an important day, because then you would be introducing your final to me. And I'll make a folder, and you can say, if it's done right, I would say, yes, your story is good. Yes, your character designs are good. Your script is okay. Your thumbnails are okay. Go, go, go. Right? And I'll let you out as early as I can get through with it. So that's the main idea. 2 more boards till the end of the semester. Okay. Does that sufficiently terrify you? Yeah, good. So there's a couple of things that I want to go over tonight that makes these 2 boards really important. They're what we've been doing so far is just looking at the process, looking at character design, looking at writing scripts and drawing maps and doing thumbnails. And I will continue to help you with drawing more full boards as we go forwards. So having said that, I want to take a step sideways and talk about character design for just a second. So we're talking about characters and characterization. And so I'm going to share my screen with you. And I decided about halfway through the afternoon here that I didn't know the best way to share these with you. I think I could just maybe upload them all individually or something. All right, so can you see this when I do it like that? You can see that? You can see the characters here? But these are not mine. I believe that these are from one of my students in the past. And what I'm looking at here is just a variety of sizes, a variety of shapes. All of these characters have a hint of a line of action. The color helps a little bit, but then when you're designing characters, you don't need it. You don't need color until ever. The color stylist can do that. And so there's lots of varieties here, even to the point where there's lots of styles here. Each one of these has their own kind of look to it. In this one, there's the same thing going on here where there's a bunch of things happening. But this one's just with cows, right? So we're gonna look at this one, and we can see this one is giving you a size comparison. So this is in the industry, it's called a size comp, size comparison. Characters are all lined up on the ground plane, and we can see how tall they are in relation to each other. It's important, especially in animation. When you draw a character, the idea would be is that the silhouette should always look different. So you see this blue guy and the red guy. So you can see that these are iterations of each other. And this, I think I might have stolen this from online somewhere, that John was looking at the silhouette between the blue and the red guy, and they're just a little too similar. In animation, you want to give the silhouette a really clean difference from all the other characters so that without even any details, your audience knows who they are. So he changed them. You can see the iteration here that the blue guy became more triangular. The red guy became a little bit more organic. And this little blue guy over here with the red head became a little bit more muscular. This little wolf guy became more of a dust bunny look. So you can see that, right? So this artist is studying the characters also as they appear to each other, and then the iteration of how he changed them. All right, so here's another good example of the artist showing what the drawing would look like, and then a more detailed Photoshop color study of it, which is always really nice. And maybe these characters aren't in a size comparison clean enough, but you can see that they're thinking about the character in terms of animation, story. And again, I think I might have just stolen these from online somewhere. And I can tell that I stole them online because the file names are out of control. Look at this one. The file name almost doesn't fit on the top up here. But the character designs are good. I like this, right? You can see that there's lots of variety. They're thinking of lots of shapes. You're not going to be able to get any of these characters without drawing a head and a line of action and studying the volume and studying the proportion. And they're thinking of really small characters to small to medium big to tall villainous characters. All right, in this example, the artist is studying them more like they were silhouettes. So remember, we did this in weeks 2 and 3, was that we just drew little mini silhouettes. And we try to get the line of action in there. But here was done just a little differently because they're using grays. And over here, they're using grays to study the silhouette. And your character should all have a really good silhouette. Whatever pose you draw your character in should always be able to read what they're doing, even if they're in just a total black or gray silhouette. No lines should be overlapping each other where they don't need to be. And this rule is different from live action, but it's not. Your live action directors are gonna try to direct their actors to do things that create silhouettes, good silhouettes, all right? This is making sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yes? All right, so I'm not completely thrilled with this one. The character's studying more of a look and feel or a more art direction kind of thing. I don't know what this is from. I don't know. It could be a game. And this one's not, it's not getting my curiosity piqued. This one's interesting. So they're studying a bunch of characters that would be in maybe a TV series. Character designs for Flash. And again, they're looking at the characters in terms of silhouettes. It's very common to have your characters put their hands on their hips. So that automatically creates the silhouette. But you don't want to do that every single time. Right? Everyone okay? All right, so studying the characters. This looks like it might be a production still from the Aristocats. I'm not sure. But this is top-notch quality, right? You got a blue line pencil, and then you've got an ink on top of it, and then you've got either marker or watercolor. And this artist knows what they're doing. And it looks like it's very old, right? This is great, right? All right, so that concludes this little folder that I wanted to share with you, because character design is really important. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to read from my list, and I'm not going to write all of these artists down right here, but I'm just going to read from the list, because this is like my go-to characters. And I want to tell you how I generated this list. The first thing that I did when I was generating this list was think of a movie like Hercules. Well, who designed the characters for Hercules? If you don't know, well, there's this thing called the internet. And go digging around. Ask Google, who designed the characters for Hercules? You really like them, right? They're fabulous. You're going to find that it was Gerald Scharf. And it was a departure from everything that Disney had done before. Who designed the characters for Lilo and Stitch? If you don't know, it's Chris Sanders, right? So go digging. Who designed the characters for Coco? Who designed the characters for Luca? Go digging around and figure out, boy, you really love the Jungle Book. Well, who designed the characters for the Jungle Book? You're going to find that it was the Milt Kahl and the 9 Old Men from Disney. So automatically just go, Milt Kahl, Frank Thomas, Ollie Johnson, all the 9 Old Men, John Lounsbury, all of them. And just make a list of, oh boy, Frank Thomas's characters were just the best. And do some study about where you gravitate towards for your favorite characters. So start with feature films. And I've just given you a list of mine. The Iron Giant, the character designed by Brad Bird. Think about The Nightmare Before Christmas. The character designed by Tim Burton. Look at James and the Giant Peach. You're going to find that the character is designed by Lane Smith. And sometimes your initial character design can look radically different from how the characters looked like in the film. And so if you can say James and the Giant Peach concept designs, you'll find that the concept designs that Lane Smith came up were very different than what the production team actually used for the puppets. All right, is this making sense? Making sense? I'm seeing some heads nodding. So then the next jump is TV series. Well, who designed the characters for Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends? Who's your favorite? What about the Fairly Odd Parents? What about Wander Over Yonder? What are your favorite TV series? It's go all the way back, Bugs Bunny. Who designed the characters for Bugs Bunny? It wasn't just Chuck Jones. They had a whole team of people. So figure out what you like. Figure out who designed the characters that you like. Maybe you like Yogi Bear, or the Jetsons, and you're going to go all the way back through Hanna-Barbera, the stuff from the 60s and 70s. That stuff was great. It was really wonderful. All right, so feature films and TV series. Feature films, TV series. Use Internet Movie Database. It's your friend. You're doing research. You're doing top edge, cutting edge research. All right, then there's another third avenue that's a really good one. And I don't have my books in front of me because they're in that closet behind me, but you've seen them. You've seen the making of Toy Story or the making of Finding Nemo. You've seen those books, right? You know, they're like a really good book for your mom to give you for Christmas or your birthday or something like that. Because they're filled with the concept drawings, concept illustrations, character designs. What did Dory look like when they were first drawing her? When Ed Lee was drawing those characters, what did those characters look like? You know, they're not that much of a change from the storyboards to the final film, but those books have illustrations and designs in them for stuff that didn't make it into the film. And not all of that stuff is scanned and online. So I don't know how you're going to do it. Maybe when the pandemic is completely open and over and you can go to libraries, or you could go to our library at Kenyatta College. Those making of books are gold. They are just the best because, again, they have things in them that didn't make it into the final movie. Can I see some nods? They're the best. All right. Then comic books. Take a dive into comic book and illustrations. What are your favorite comic books? You know, is it Marvel? Is it DC? Is it Dark Horse? Whatever it is. Think about all those comic books and the designs for them. There's a direct and immediate connection between those character designs and the stories that they tell in comic books to animation, because it's just really drawing intensive. The thing that you want to take away from this is that the comic book stage on the page can have really crazy, wonderful story frames where there's just an eye in the middle of the page. And then you realize Aeon Flux is all about weird, and the eye opens up and a fly goes in the eye and the eyelashes clasp on top of the eye. And you're like, that's a really great illustration. It's a really great comic book thing. And the comic book artists can make the jump to animation, and the animators can jump back to comic books, and they can really stretch the form of both of those mediums. All right, so you got this? You see where I'm going? So I'm gonna give you a couple of names for characters that character designers that I really like, just to get you started. And the first one is Scotty Young. He has done a whole bunch of stuff. One of them is I Hate Fairyland. He was a comic book artist and illustrator for many years. So the first thing you're going to get if you just type in Scotty Young, you're going to get all of his covers and all the illustration stuff. But if you change it to Scotty Young drawings, you get a different set of things. It's like, oh, now it's looking more like concept stuff. It's really brilliant, absolutely wonderful, right? So Scotty Young. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to Grissom, G-R-I-S, Grimley. And you can see that now there's a theme right here. These characters are great. They're wonderful. Oh my God, you know, some of them would be hard to animate because there's just too much details, but it's there. All right, so let's take a look also now at Sarah Mansinga. She's one of my favorites of all time. She's designed characters for films and short films and games and TV series for a long time. She lives in Austin, Texas. She's just got a wonderful pencil line, absolutely wonderful line. At the top of her game, I always make the joke that we are married. She's my wife. The only problem is that we haven't met yet. Absolutely fabulous, stunning work. All right, well, let's just look at Chris Sanders because we mentioned him. So Lilo and Stitch, How to Train Your Dragon, a whole bunch of stuff that he's gone out and done, right? And those two films are unbelievably great. So it's, you know, what I have on my hard drive is, and I'll share it with you. I'm just going to run through this really quickly. Is I have a whole bunch of folders right here. You see these folders? So I'm just going to fly through these folders really quickly. Hold on a second. I got to get to the right folders. All right, so when I was teaching character design, I ripped tons of images, tons of drawings, designs, illustrations, tons of stuff. So this is just one folder, right? You can see me flying through here. And there's Sarah Mantsinga. Sometimes there's another one. So, you know, I did them in like groups. So there's Sarah again. And you can see just the list. These are all Sarah. You know, and then what I would have my students do is like take that little caveman guy and animate him in Flash. And they, my student would ask Sarah permission. So my students were routinely contacting Sarah Mantsinga and saying, hey, I love the caveman guy. Would you mind if I animated it for Billy, for AI, for my studio class? And she would routinely say, oh, absolutely. She'd love that idea. And then they would share the QuickTime movie with her. And it was just a really great connection to make into the industry. Remember, getting a job in the industry is all about who you know. So if you start borrowing characters from Sarah Mantsinga and you contacted her, and then you meet her at Comic-Con one day, OMFG, Alex, you know, that all of a sudden your world changes. You might get a job just because of that connection. All right, so now this is another folder. There's lots of stuff in here. It's basically sort of random. You know, I like everything in here. Everything in here, that's all great, right? So that's just the top of that folder. Let's go to this one. There's like 16 folders here. And there's no way I'm going to give it to you because these are all illegal, right? They're just completely against the law. You're not allowed to steal them. Well, I'm just using them for reference and inspiration. Tons of different stuff over the years. Tons of different approaches and styles. Apparently, I had a lot of time on my hands. I was just stealing images from the internet. And again, I don't know where these are. What I would do is if I really liked one of these, I could go backwards and do an image search for it. Do you all know how to do that? Here, let me show you. I'm just gonna take one of these at random. Let's pick one that's better than any of the others. There has to be a lot of contrast in the drawing. Yeah, this is a good one. So I'm just gonna peel this to the desktop and I'm gonna come over to my Google window and I'm gonna go backwards and I'm gonna do this little camera right here has to be available in the Google search. So if you take your JPEG and just drag it right here, it should tell you where it came from. So now it's doing an image search for an image. And it's looking and it found this artist. And then you have to decide whether that was correct or not. You know, it looks close. All right, so you get that point? All right, so let's do just a couple more. This folder looks like it's a good one. You know, lots of stuff. Think about thin characters, really thick characters. When you're doing this, think of the proportions. Look at the head size to the body size. Are they tall? Are they skinny? Are they fat? Are they heroes? Are they villains? To me, I think one of the more challenging sets of character designs would be for the Wizard of Oz, because the lion is always the most difficult one to get. Dorothy, she's cute and lovable or whatever. Tin Man is, you know, more robotic, and the Scarecrow, you know, that's a good one. But getting the lion just right, I think I might even have a Wizard of Oz folder. I don't know where I put it. Oh, there's Miyazaki, right? Studio Ghibli. You know, so that's another one. Do you like Studio Ghibli? You know, this would be hell to animate, right? You couldn't animate all those lines, but if you were doing toon shading and you animated the horse in Maya, it might be really fun to do that horse running like it was Paper Man. Who designed the characters for Paper Man? Glenn Keane. So we're going to come back over to here. We're going to say Glenn Keane. And we're going to need to do drawings, because you'll get all kinds of other stuff if you just do Glenn Keane. And we're getting the photo search. So let's do it this way. You know, everything from Pocahontas, Tarzan, Beauty and the Beast. He worked at Disney for 38 years as the lead animator and character designer. You know, and so he's a huge one on your list. He's done a whole bunch of independent short films. I don't know where he's working right now. He could be laying low, but you should know Glenn Keane. That's Glenn Keane. All right, a couple others from the list. Okay, gonna keep going for just a little bit more. Everyone okay? Again, I think you should be making your own list. All right, from one of the making of books, Nico Marlet, helping Chris Sanders on How to Train Your Dragon. He also did some stuff for Pixar. He was a go-to guy for really wild and crazy zany characters. And he has a very particular style for drawing. Absolutely wonderful stuff. The Bee Movie, Brother Bear, all kinds of stuff for Nico Marlet. If you saw Klaus, Sergio Pablo had done character designs for Rio. He did the initial designs for Klaus. He's done character designs like for a big part of his life. So he's another big one in the industry. And we'll have to see what Spa Studios is up to next. Yeah, he designed the character for Despicable Me, a whole bunch of stuff. He's a really good one. Really, really good character designer. All right, let's do a couple more. Look at Peter DeSev. He did characters for Ice Age, and has been an illustrator for the cover for the New Yorker for many years. He's extremely prolific. His character designs lend themselves very well to animation, and lots of variety of shapes, thin against thick, and just a lot of really great character designs. That I don't think that's him. That is not Peter de Sève. One of the more infamous drawings of his was this one. It came as a poster from one of the Comic Cons many years ago. And it was on the wall at the Art Institute of California at San Francisco on Civic Center. And because it was in the hallway, people were touching it. And the poster basically got destroyed. So before it got thrown away, I tore it off the wall and cut out all the characters and put them on their own pages. It was huge. So this is just a variety of things that he's designed. Peter de Sève is awesome. Carter Goodrich, again, designing for Disney and Pixar, Brave, New York Magazine, Finding Nemo. Again, a lot of the times when a movie goes out, the call for character designs will go out to all kinds of different people all over the world. And those concept drawings will come back in after reading the script. And the studio doesn't know who they're going to use yet. You know, if they're going to use this for Ratatouille. Did they use his character? Well, they might have used it for one or the other, but they're still putting things together. That's why these making of books are just priceless, because then you can see stuff that you'd have to go really digging around the internet for. Carter Goodrich, just one of my favorites. All right, let's do one more. And we'll end with, and there's just thousands, but we're going to end with Bill Peet. And I want to augment this story by just telling you that when an animation studio goes into production for a feature film, they start with a script. And the script gets revised many different times. And somewhere along the way, they put the call out there for character designs, because they know they're going to do something with 101 Dalmatians. And the character designers start sending things in, and then the story people can get hired. And usually if they're going to do a feature film, they might have anywhere between 10 and 20 people doing storyboards for a feature film that is animated. Sound about right? 10, but somewhere between 10 and 20 people. And those 20 storyboard artists will just go through the film, and they'll take 4 or 5 months to draw the storyboards for the film. And then they'll have storyboard revisionists, and they'll hire a team of people that are interns or assistants to come in behind that story artist. And there might be 10 or 20 of those artists as well to do revisions. So there might be 30 people that worked on story for Luca. So go back and look at Internet Movie Database and see how many story people worked on Luca. And you might find that the storyboard artists also contributed to a character design that was very, very common. Well, guess what? Bill Peet did every single storyboard drawing for 101 Dalmatians. And that was unheard of. And Walt Disney himself hated that idea because it gave Bill Peet way too much control. And so they fought constantly. And they bickered. It was like two brothers going at their necks all day long. And eventually Bill Peet quit. And he was responsible for boarding that famous scene with Shere Khan. Well, if you do happen to see him, and he's got his claw up Kaa's nose, absolute phenomenal.
Yes.
Just the most phenomenal storytelling.
Best.
It's just the best. And just to remember that Bill Peet's twist on the Jungle Book was to make it safe for kids. But in the Rudyard Kipling book, in the novel, Mowgli comes back after being delivered to the man village, and he meets Baloo and Bagheera and the elephants are there too. Colonel Hattie is there. And Mowgli, and they say, what are you doing back? And they said, oh, well, they rejected me. You know, I didn't fit into their society. He was either too dirty or he wasn't a good candidate for being in the man village. What happens in the film? Does anyone know what happens in the actual story? Well, the elephants get really mad and they go back and kill everyone in the man village. And the Disney story is just a little different than that. It's just a little different.
I remember how I saw it as a little kid, and I remember how upset I was because I had already read the real book.
The real book, yeah.
And I was, as much as I loved the cuteness of the Disney animation, I was really disappointed that they didn't do the story right.
Yeah, it's the ending is very different. And Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid.
Oh God, let's not talk about that.
Yeah,
I mean,
the Little Mermaid has a completely different ending as well. Okay, so so this is a very good place in the semester here to talk about your favorite character designers. And I think you should be researching as many different character designers as you can. Get them in your eyes. Do what I did. You know, take screenshots or just get yourself folder after folder after folder of just reference stuff to inspire you with. Right? I think we've already seen that one. Just all kinds of weird stuff, right? All kinds of strange stuff. Look at this one with Santa. Like, you know, oh, this all kinds of crazy stuff. All right, so I thought that I was inspired to do one more here. Bill Pete. So, you know, I do want to do one more because my buddy and I were talking about a triumvirate, and that was Maurice Sendak. Maurice Sendak authored many children's books. After Bill Pete quit Disney, he authored many children's books, and so did Dr. Seuss. That's the triumvirate. So Maurice Sendak, Bill Pete, and Dr. Seuss. His real name is Theodore Geisel. And so these three artists did many kids' books, Where the Wild Things Are. There's just a whole bunch of them. All right, so this I know that this is an introduction to a phenomenal amount of research that you should do over the rest of your life. And like I said, I just have thousands of images archived, and I know where to go. I have my favorite people. I know what I like, and that's what I'm telling you, is that you should know what you like too. You should know what you like. And I'm sorry, but it's boy heavy. There aren't a lot of female character designers out there. It's not my fault. It's Chloe's fault. Everything is Chloe's fault. All right, everybody okay? All right, it isn't? You're gonna deny that it's not your fault? Oh, Chloe. All right, so now what I wanna do is introduce this to you. And I authored this many years ago. This is something that you wanna look at in terms of who your characters are. So we just talked about character design, and you're thinking about shapes and proportions and drawing style. But now I want you to think about who your characters are. And in order to do that, we're going to go to page 2. And the first thing that you should be thinking of is what your character's name is. What I had done, there's a little sheet on the back side of this where you break the name up into syllables. Billy, right? Jim E, Alex. You break it up into syllables. How many syllables do you want your character's name to be? 1, 2, 3, 4 syllables. Skellington Jack. See what I mean? All right, and then you can do some of this if you want. Your character might have a nickname. If you've got a hero and a villain, or a protagonist and an antagonist, they should know each other. Maybe they needle each other and they go back and forth, and they give each other a nickname that they don't like. the antagonist gives the protagonist a nickname that they don't like, just to piss them off. So nicknames, I put in alter ego, and then just a data sheet, you know, how tall are they, what race, what gender, what color is their hair. It's just something for you to think about. You do not have to fill this in all the way. It would be insane of you to fill this in because there's 20 pages. So do not fill this in for your antagonist and protagonist and your ancillary characters. You know, you can't do this, but at least should you be thinking of your character's name. And then if you go here, so I broke this up into physiology, what they look like, right? And then sociology, about what they prefer. Are they, you know, are they rich or poor? Are they smart or stupid? Who are their parents? What part of society are they from? And then this one is probably one that you could gravitate towards a little more, is the psychology of that character. You want to give your character some primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary traits. Homer Simpson is a one-dimensional character. He's just dumb, right? But he's very lovable. He loves Marge, but he's not very smart, right? So there has to be an appeal to that character. So he's dumb, but he's very lovable. Think about Spider-Man. You know, he is noble. You know, he has a good heart. He has a good cause. Think about Superman. You know, I'm always going to win the battle. I hate Superman. He's my least favorite character of all time. And kryptonite is not his weakness. I'm talking about a mental weakness. If anything is a weakness, Spider-Man knew that MJ would be his weakness. And that if any villain got a hold of MJ and captured her and kidnapped her, that all bets would be off. What is Spider-Man supposed to do? You know where I'm going with this? You see where I'm going with this? So kryptonite is not a mental weakness for Superman. Superman has no mental weakness. He's 100% good. Now, come on. Who's 100% good? Alex is 100% good. Oh, okay, so you're not going to deny it, Alex?
How can I deny you?
No, you're 100% good. Now, so then I always bring up Batman.
Superman is boring because he is so good.
Yeah, exactly. But look at Batman. He's conflicted. He's got character flaws all over the place. And so if you can get to your characterization, what are their positive traits? And what is their flaw? These two boxes right here become what you should be thinking about, at least for your characters in your stories. Remember, these are your stories. So you're not borrowing from Egyptian mythology. You're not borrowing from African mythology. These are Chloe Kim's stories. These are yours, and they're your characters. Do you understand, Phil? These are your stories. So you have to have a name, and you should think about psychology, physiology, and sociology of the character, with an emphasis on their positive traits with the big plus sign, and their character flaws. I always start with the flaw. What is their weakness? And their weakness doesn't just have to be ice cream. Their weakness doesn't have to be apple pie. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, love is a weakness of Darth Vader. Just start right there. What was the undoing of Darth Vader? Love. He never gave up on it. He pushed it way in the back of his psyche. And when confronted against the Emperor, killing Luke, sorry if I just ruined the story for you. Father, help me. And what did he do? He picked the Emperor up and threw him down the shaft. And just the act of going against the Emperor not only killed the Emperor, but it killed him. That was his undoing, was love. So a villain's positive traits are actually their flaw, if that makes any sense. Okay, so again, you can read through this. what this is technically, literally, is about 8 different sources. Myself, a couple other animation and storyboard professors, lectures that I heard from storyboard artists at Disney and Pixar and Warner Brothers and ILM and all over the place. And I just put it together. If we look at this, you can see that in page 5, I'm talking about peculiarities. One of the odd things of a character might be that they're really into astrology, or that they always have to eat their food cold. One of my students many years ago, his character collected safety cones from around the city. That was their oddity. And I just love that, because this character would go out at night and just collect as many safety cones as he could possibly find, and he would bring them back to his apartment. And Jonathan had drawn this wonderful drawing of his monster-looking character in this apartment that was just filled with safety cones. And I started laughing, and I loved it. And he's like, "Why is this so funny?" I'm like, "Because he removed the safety cones, and now there's all these cars smacking into each other because the safety cones are gone." He's like, "Oh, I didn't even think about that." So this oddities is a good thing here. Looking at the psychology of types, 9 types, Enneagrams, or Myers-Briggs is something that you can think about if you're really delving deep into your character. In The Land of the Blind, the one-eyed man is king, Tom Waits. Continuing for peculiarities, there's a website out there, Science Fiction Writers Association.org, SFWA. And James Patrick Kelly has a section on there where he defines any character falls into one of these categories. And it's not like I agree with him, but I think it's just interesting to think of a story that has a cardboard character in it. It's just a flat character. They're in the background. They don't need to have a personality. They're just there, right? There's the foil, there's the narrator, the spear carrier, that's the minion, right? So these are interesting to just think about. All right, and then peculiarities continued. This was a dive into the 29 dimensions. And so what this is basically, it is dangerous if you think about this too much. You'll end up giving yourself a self-analysis. You could save yourself in psychoanalytic fees the more you fill this out by coupling this with the relationship between your parents or your friends or any of your family, because that's where I'm pulling this from. This is like deep into psychology here. Again, now we go back to the physiology, physical details, but I'm adding in things like, do they have pets? You know, that might be really important to you if your lead character has a pet. And then what are the relationships between all the other characters? I hate my brother. He's an idiot. He lies all the time. Like every attorney, he's a liar, right? And we know we don't get along. All right. What makes them happy? What makes your character sad? What makes your character introspective? What makes your character furious as opposed to sad or mad? What makes them furious? All right, so again. You do not and you should not fill all this out, but you can have it to look at and just think to yourself, what are your positive traits? What are your negative traits? What your character's name? All right. What is the sound of their voice? Who would play that character in the animated film? And don't just pick John Goodman, right? He's done tons of different characters. Don't pick Jack Angel. Or you could pick Mel Blanc because his vocalization range was just so insanely beautiful. He did like 85 characters for Warner Brothers, right? Who's going to do the sound of your voice? Who's going to do the sound of your character's voice? What does your character smell like? What are their pet peeves? What gets their goat? How smart are they? Do they have regrets? Continuing. Parts of this are cross-referenced and kind of old. What is available to them? Do they have magic? Right? What is that magic? Do they have the ability for flight or invisibility, super strength or time travel, telekinesis, laser vision? Can they run really fast? So is there magic? All right, then this page is Tom Waits again. This is things for you to just, you start thinking about your character, and once you start getting into who your character is and you're really into that moment with them, then you can probably start answering some of these questions. I think that in here I was saying, you know, what accent do they have? Are they from New Jersey? Forget about it. You know, are they from New York? Are they from Long Island? Are they from Chicago? You know, what kind of accent do they have? All right, and then this, again, this is just for you to kind of think about, is a group of words that help describe your character. And what I've done here is given you an adverb, and an adjective, and a noun. And you'll see here in the next couple of pages. So these are the adverbs. And I've given you a couple of really short ones like Fast Eddie, or a rabble rouser, or your Dutch uncle. But this right here is on a scale of 100% to 0%. So in other words, if you were thinking of a character who is a hero character, are they brilliantly adorable? Is your hero character patently intelligent? And then each time you pick one of these words, the further over to the left, that's 100% of that trait. So if you're saying that your hero is crudely antagonistic, that starts to kind of feel like a character. If they're humiliatingly nonsensical, who is that character? If they're humiliatingly nonsensical, if they're mildly attractive. Now, all of a sudden, think of Cats Don't Dance, and think about the antagonist in Cats Don't Dance. Darla Dimples, right? She was an evil character. She was tremendously evil. So you see where I'm going with this? So this is like a slider right here. And then if you go to the next page, you can see that now these are the adjectives. So these are adverbs and these are adjectives. And you can say, and on this page, what I did here is I do the thing, a protracted lecture sometimes about comparing Superman, Spider-Man, and Batman. And I pick those three because all three of them are good. Let me see some nods. All three of those characters are good. Yes. All three of them are physically strong and emotionally strong, right? And smart. All three of those have basically those three characterizations, right? And on a slider, if this was a volume control, then I would say, oh, well, Superman is like right here. He's 100% good, right? Right? Can I see some nods? And then I come down here and I say, okay, so let's talk about Spider-Man. And Spider-Man he's not 100% good. So Spider-Man would be like 90, right? And I always, and whenever I do this, if I took a poll around the class, Spider-Man always comes out to like 92. So whenever I even see the number 92, I always think of Spider-Man. And then in this slider here between good and evil, who's Batman? If you pick a number for Batman, and I did a poll across all my classes for all these years, Batman comes out to like somewhere between 85 and 88.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm always surprised because I would pick him much lower than that, especially in some of the darker movies. And so whenever I see the number 85 or 88, I always kind of think of Batman. And then I come down here and I say physically and mentally strong. And I think, oh, Superman, 100%, right? Spider-Man, 92, right? Batman, physically and emotionally strong, 80 to 85, right? You see where I'm going with this? And then you come down here to smart, and Superman's really smart, 100%. Spider-Man, 92. And then Batman is, he's a smart guy, but he's also wealthy. So he's not really that smart. He's just 85 to 88, right? And I'm like, well, then who are those characters? And why is Superman always to the left on all those positive sliders? No wonder I hate Superman. So you see where I'm going with this? And then I take the same 3 highlighted words here and put Homer Simpson in there. How good is Homer Simpson?
10.
10, okay. How physically strong is Homer Simpson?
0.
0. And how smart is Homer Simpson?
0.
So what that
Negative-
tells you is
Negative
that
9.
that tells you is that those are not Homer Simpson's positive traits. These are the positive traits. So go look at this, and which one of these would be Homer Simpson's first positive trait? Again, they're not in alphabetic order, they're just random. Is he humble? He's
No.
not rich. Is he
No.
spiritual? Is he eccentric?
Yeah, a little bit.
He's funny.
Yeah.
Or
He's not smart enough to be eccentric.
right, exactly. So which one of these would be his first primary trait?
He's romantic a little bit.
Yeah, okay, I could buy that. No, I would say that he's definitely 90% romantic, right?
Yeah, why
So
not?
then, what's his secondary trait? And
He's
his
small.
secondary trait would technically, literally have to be something that would be less than 90, but still pretty high.
You're gonna laugh, but I think he actually is sensitive.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna laugh. He's definitely sensitive.
It's-
It might be in the 70s, right? It's a positive trait for him. What's his third trait?
Bald.
Entertaining? No.
No.
Yeah, but that comes from him, what he does. That's not his personality.
Okay, then continue. Is he honest? Does he lie?
Most of the time.
Okay, look at the list. Is he a leader? Is he adventurous? Is he proud?
Yeah.
So you see where I'm going with this? You
Yeah,
can put your positive traits on this slider to find out who your character is. Picking 1, 2, 3, and you're trying to find the left side. If you want to find out who your villain is, pick the right side. So just pick your favorite villain. Right? And say, what are they boring? Are they bashful? Are they physically weak? Right? What are they? And you might find that some of your villains start to appear like heroes, except at the last minute, they're mass murderers. Or at the last minute, one of the positive traits like love is their undoing. All right, so now you can see why this handout is actually really complicated, right? All right, so there's a couple other things here, and it continues down here. There's a couple other things. So what this is just that worksheet. The example would be that your main protagonist is alarmingly, dogmatically introverted, or that your secondary character is fiercely loyal companion. This is a good one. So you can see in books and literature and films, animation, stories, where there's a fiercely loyal companion. This is a perfect example of how you mix the adverb, adjective, noun. And again, you don't have to do this, but the more you think about this, the more you know your character is. The villain, totally arrogant swine. Right? So you get the idea? All right, so again, this is just a worksheet. Names is just kind of what I said before. The number of syllables, the first sound, the middle sounds, the ending sound, and they can be from any culture. Oh, and then I make a thing here about what does character mean? What does a flaw of that character mean? And then when you are watching anything, if you're watching a feature film, a short film, if you're reading a story, and a character does something out of character, that should be an immediate clue for you. Oh, that character just did something that they would not do. That is out of character. And then you have to decide as the participating audience member if you're okay with that. Because more often than not, the characters are following what the writers are doing. It's sometimes you get on a movie set and Harrison Ford is going to go, my character would never do that, right? Because they know their character really well, especially if it's TV series or if it's episodic. Look at the vocal cast for The Simpsons. How many character shows have they done? They know their characters almost as well as the writers do. So there's a difference between being in character and out of character. Your character should always have a character flaw. A character flaw is technically not out of character. So read this and take away what you would like from it. You know, a Buzz Lightyear being naive, Woody being jealous. So there's some good examples right there. And the difference between a character flaw and a tragic flaw in Shakespearean literature, or the difference between a tragic flaw and a fatal flaw. Okay, so you got that? Again, this is just for you to think about your characters and more nouns to describe your character. I like this page because, and I think about this a lot of times, you know, if someone were to describe me as a dog, oh, Billy's a dog, you know, that could have a positive connotation. But if someone calls my sister a dog, if calling a female a dog has definitely negative connotations. You know, oh, Alex is a really bear of an animator, right? There's an association there. Billy is a weasel. Negative connotation right from the get-go, right? So take a look at this, and any animal, and it doesn't have to be their spirit animal, you're just kind of thinking that some of them have negative and some of them have positive connotations, definitely. So you might get a lot out of this one. All right, and then we're getting towards the end here. Oh, and then I did like, I don't know what this, I forgot what I put here. There was a worksheet on the back here where this 1, 2, 3, 4 was this you drawing the little mini silhouettes. I don't think I say this in these directions, but here I think I make it a point to say, if you're going to draw your whole cast of characters in a size comparison once, twice, 3 or 4 times, they have to be small and in silhouette. What is this Kurt Cobain? The worst crime is faking it. And I think that's the last page here. All right, do I have any questions about this? I mean, this is a lot, but so take it for what?
Yeah, I want to actually say something because as somebody who has written more novels than I admit to, none of them published, I always found character sheets impossible to deal with because the characters evolve as you get to know them, as you write about them.
Absolutely.
Same for games. However, and this is on a sheet, the one where we did the long list with the attributes and the percentages.
Yeah.
It was like this, I think this is the first time that I've seen a character sheet thing and went like, you know, this might be really fun to do about my character.
Yeah, it's.
So I'm gonna try that.
I think that it's a really hard and difficult approach when you're building a character, but you might find that part really good. I know that I had to go back and forth when
When I come up with a character, I have no clue, right? The sheets, they want you to put that like down their belief system or whatever, it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
And it's like, I don't know that yet because I haven't lived with this character yet.
Right, exactly.
But after I've written 3 chapters or, you know, drawn them 20 times, these things may, and sometimes it's not relevant for the story. So,
Right. Right.
so why worry about it? I have friends, I don't know what their belief systems are, and I've known them for 10 years.
Right.
It's just not important for the relationship.
So for you all,
Anyway,
you should, yeah, right, that wasn't anyway. So for you all, you should be thinking of at least 2 stories. The one that is due in 3 weeks and the one that's due at the final. How long should these stories be?
okay. Right.
Chloe,
How long should the story be?
how long should your stories be?
30 to 60 seconds?
That's pretty quick. I might stretch it to a little longer than that.
Okay.
It depends on how you write your script, right? And you've all had a deep dive into writing scripts, right? I've had you write scripts from mythology and your own thing here. For commercials, you wrote a script. So your script should be rather short. It should be a half a page. And if it's a half a page, you are talking like 30 seconds to 40 seconds. If your script is a little longer, that's okay. If it's a full page, when you're writing back and forth, even dialogue, and that's going to be about a minute. In Hollywood, a typical handwritten or typewritten script is about anywhere between 45 seconds and a minute. So if a feature film is 100 minutes, an hour and a half, that script is usually about 100 pages. Did you all know that? Typically, you know, plus or minus. So here's the thing. Let's say that you get on a roll. Let's say that Riley gets on this roll and he writes a story that is 3 pages long. What does he do? What do you do, Riley?
If it's 3 pages long,
Yeah, you wrote a script and it's 3 pages long. What do you do?
well, after done making the script, and then like I make the characters
Yeah, you
and
design the characters.
characters, what's the setting gonna be like,
Absolutely.
and what is the tone, the
Sure.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Right, exactly. Like, or on this page here, you could talk about whether you're talking fiction or nonfiction. Who's the audience for? Is it for young kids or is it for boys or girls? Is it a romantic comedy? Is it a comedy? Is it science fiction? Right? So you put all those things in there. And then you realize, you know, you've got a really great script, but it's 3 minutes long. And if it's 3 minutes long, could you draw 60 story panels between now and November 20th or whatever that day was? You know, November 17th? I might direct you to just do part of it. I might just have you do the first half. And if you can get on a roll, then you can finish the rest of it whenever you want. So I'm looking for 40 to 50 story panels for both this storyboard and the next one. So a story that is about 2 minutes long. That's your target. But if you go a little longer, if you write a script that is 10 pages long, that might be a great script, Chloe. But I'm just going to say, hey, you know what? Just do the first 2 minutes and save the rest of it when you have another time. Right? Just stop. Just get, act 1, act 2, act 3. Just do the first act. And just give me the first act. Just give me the first 40 story panels. But if you want, on my list of notes here for tonight, reminding you that this website right here is really, really great for short stories. ESMA is a school in Paris. Is Escuela Supérieure des Métiers Artistiques. It is the highest school of the arts in Paris. And they have a website. It's just look at ESMA, and they have all of these films are like 40 seconds long. They're all really short. And there's 1,000 of them. So if you're going to do your research about what short stories look like, take a look at this story is from ESMA. Okay, and then the other one is Gobelin. I did it wrong, Animation Studios. And it's this school right here, Gobelin, and they're in Paris as well. And their website is, it's not accessible to just anyone. It's like a finishing school for animators. They have thousands of short films, just literally 2-minute films, and they're all, there's 1,000 of them, and they're all really great. They have a channel on YouTube for both for ESMA and Gobelin. And then remember, I already talked about Bird Box. That's that production studio. That's that agency in London. And there's small studios all over the world, but this is just a really great place for stories that are not of American sensibility. And so the Paris studios are just really steeped in lore and tradition, and I think that you want that. You want to kind of deviate away from the typical American storytelling, and you just get yourself away from that. So that's your good resources there. So your first steps are writing out your script, and it could just be an outline. It doesn't have to be finalized for next week. You go back and forth. You start working on something for one audience and it changes. That's okay. But then you're going to need to design some characters. So find your favorite style of character design, stretch your imagination. Remember, we are talking about all 5 things that you have to be able to do for storyboard: character, characterization, story, animation, art, and film, right? All 5 of them. So this is character and characterization and story. That's where it all starts. That's where it starts from. So get some ideas written down. What I would do if I were you, and I'm not because that would be really painful, is write out 20 ideas for a short story with different target audiences. Really, really young kids, like really, really safe for 4-year-olds, first graders, and then go middle school and then high school and then adults, and see how your story point of view changes. You could do anything you want. I'm not going to censor you. You can do anything you want. In animation, you can do anything you want because it's animation. But have your ideas and at least some sketches for what your characters look like, possibly who the characters' names are. And you don't have to start defining their characterizations, but the more you do that, the better of a character they're going to be for you. The more you think about it, the deeper they'll be for you. And if you ever come out of a movie theater and you're watching this film and you go, God, something really bothered me about that character. They were really one-dimensional. It's because they only had one positive trait, or maybe just a couple of positive traits. A one-dimensional character is really shallow. Your deeper protagonists are going to have not 3 traits, they're going to have 8. They're going to have 8 different traits. But you're not writing for a feature film, you're just writing for a short script. So get your ideas written down, get your character designs written down, your ideas should be in script form. If you have some sort of thumbnails, that would be great, but they should just be random. This is like a master shot. This is what the character looks like when they're happy. This is what the character looks like when they're sad, because in my little short storyboard, they're going to be happy and sad. So if in your story, your character is worried and then they're really happy, then what do they look like when they're worried and really happy? And just do 2 little expressions. They're terrified because they opened up a treasure chest and there were ghosts in it. They're like, ah, what does that look like? What does that look like for your character?
You can say to put in like 20 images for reference.
You can do that if you want. You can present them to me. That happens all over the world. People do that, reference sketches for film and animation and games and everything. Design, advertising. They give credit to where it's due so that there's no plagiarizing or copyright or trademark or registration violations. If you borrow something, just make sure everybody knows that you're just using this for an inspiration sheet. At the Academy, they have the students do inspiration sheets for game and animation. What is the background going to look like? What you want your characters to look like? Period piece from the Victorian era, or a period piece from the Renaissance, or whatever you're into. These are your stories. You are the auteur. You're the author. Again, I'm looking for 2-minute stories because that's a good amount of story panels to draw. If your stories are a little longer, I might just tell you to just do the first 2 minutes of it and just put a pause right there and finish the rest of it on whenever you get a chance. Okay?
Yep.
Okay,
All right.
okay. Remember that I left this thing that was due today for the Indigenous story open until the night of Halloween, just to get, I want you all to get back in there. A couple of you have missing things, so you can put them in the late missing and redo folder if you need to. Okay? 2-minute stories, 30 to 40 story panels. That's your target. Make your characters interesting. These are your stories. Yes, Mr. Billy.
So we are doing thumbnails.
Just a couple. I would do spot thumbs. I would just do what your master shot looks like and what the main expressions look like. Work more on the story and the character designs. That's going to take you a while. That's going to take you a week. And then if you're going to do any drawings, give me a master shot, what your background looks like, your map, you might want to do a map, and what your main expressions look like, which is based directly on your story. Country Western, Old Western, Spaghetti Western, Samurai, Italian film noir. There's lots of different genres out there. Don't pigeonhole yourself. Work outside the box. If you're very comfortable drawing and telling stories for young adults, try something for really young kids. You'll surprise yourself. All right, well, I will take questions online. I've got a bunch of stuff to do. But I will see you all next week. What?
Oh.
Your microphone is off, Alex.
That's okay. I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, you weren't saying anything, okay. All right, I will see you all next week.
All right.
Hey, ciao for
Bye.
now.
Bye.
Thank you.
All
Okay,
right,
ciao for now.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Stay safe.
Okay. Bye,
Okay,
Billy.
bye.